Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Swing Batter, where we dive into wonderful, no good, terrible, guaranteed contracts. Dad, who do you have for us today?
I got a beauty. We're going to talk about Albert Pujols.
The great and powerful Al, right? Is he great?
That's him.
Powerful?
That's him. Undoubted Hall of Famer. You know, an amazing baseball player, but the owner of a swing batter contract.
I can't disagree with you. I do remember him on the Cardinals. So let's talk about how did we get here to the swing batter contract?
Well, before we get to the swing batter contract, I want to talk about Hall of Famer Albert Pujols. Do you know that Albert Pujols, playing for the St. Louis Cardinals from the age of 21 through 31, I think that's 11 years, batted .299 in his last season with the Cardinals? That was his lowest batting average.
For the entire time with the Cardinals?
Yep. Power hitting first baseman, knocking in home runs like 42, 47, 49, 43, RBIs 124, 123, 137, 135, and .299, his lowest batting average. I mean, this is incredible. It's why I believe, regardless after the swing batter contract, Albert Pujols is the first ballot Hall of Famer, and no doubt in my mind.
So he was. I want to just volunteer something about early Albert Pujols on the Cardinals. I remember being in a fantasy baseball league with our cousin David, and David picked up this rookie from the Cardinals named Albert Pujols, who had spent literally, I mean, maybe like a fart in AA. And all of a sudden, he was in the starting lineup for the St. Louis Cardinals. And this guy just raked. He had the fastest hands in baseball. He could wait on a breaking ball until the very last second because his hands were just so fast. And the guy would just hit. And I just remember thinking to myself, man, he looks old for 21. And maybe the reason the Cardinals pushed him through AA so quickly was because he was actually 24, 23. This is Todd's theories. Keep going.
Well, to back you up, Todd, most people, when they break in, their first season is a half a season, or they take a while to get going. A 21-year-old, says here, Albert Pujols, first time in the major leagues, he ended up the season with 37 home runs, 130 RBIs, and a batting average of .329, playing in 161 games. Basically played all their games and had those numbers.
And the Cardinals are beyond ecstatic because if you have a guy who just comes up, this is the deal. This is your staple. So he has played 11 seasons for the Cardinals. His stats are amazing. Of course, the Cardinals aren't going to let him go. They're a smart organization. The fans love him. The town adores him. And Albert is searching for a new contract.
And here comes everybody's favorite team. Like, if you're looking for a team that's going to absorb a contract, it's going to be the Angels. The Angels come along and they say, listen.
You just said absorb the contract, and all I'm thinking about is Albert Pujols, and our running joke before this segment was Fat Albert. And so I'm thinking about Fat Albert getting absorbed into the Angels, and it's just making me laugh. So I apologize, yeah. Albert. You're not big. You're just big boned. You're big boned.
So he goes out to Anaheim because, hey, gonna have a good time, as Fat Albert would say. So in December 2011, fresh on the heels of all the great 10-year contracts out there for anyone who's 31, but as the president of the Marlins said at the time when he was negotiating, he knew full well that Pujols was 33, 34, and they're negotiating a 10-year contract and flat out didn't care. It's a 10-year, $240 million contract. This is going to reshape the Angels franchise, the whole franchise. Everything's going to change. He's getting $24 million a year. He's got personal service agreements post-retirement. It ties him to the Angels beyond his playing years. And what ends up happening, like you take a guy who was a St. Louis Cardinal. He grew up in the Cardinals. Cardinals brought him into baseball. The idea that this long history, storied franchise was being usurped by the same organization that would promote the likes of Billy Epler to general manager later in his career was controversial at best. And now this guy's going to go out west and he's going to lead the Angels to tons of postseason appearances. He's going to mentor new young rookies like a young Mike Trout, and he's going to make this thing happen. What happened?
Well, I'll tell you this. His first year with the Angels, remember, this guy has not batted under 299, and that was once. He has a good year. 30 home runs, 105 RBIs, 285. Now, you ready for this? The whole rest of the contract, Albert Pujols never hit as high as 285 again. That is how we can tell a swing batter contract is on us.
This just doesn't make... The part that doesn't make sense to me is his batting average through the year with the Cardinals, his lowest was 299. I understand that maybe in 5 years after he signs his deal that his average completely bottoms out. He never hit 299. 280, you said 285, 286. What was it?
285 the first year, that was his Angels high. He never did that again.
And he never did that once for the Cardinals.
No, not that low.
What about his on-base percentage? Because as the famous Bill James would say, as you get older, your judgment on pitches gets better, and you should have a better on-base percentage.
Do you have that, Todd?
Well, no, that's what Bill James said.
I will tell you, it crashed also, right?
Huh.
It was last year with the Angels, his worst year, right? 366. He never got to 366 with the Angels. First year, 343, 330, 323, 307. Are we beginning to see it? 286, 289. The last few years, we're down to 250 as an on-base percentage.
Yeah,
we're paying top dollars for this.
Conspiracy theory Todd thinks that somebody wasn't 31 when they signed this deal. He's behaving more like a 36-year-old.
I tend to give the benefit of the doubt to the player who signs the deal because they tried to do too much their first season. Sure. Typically, a player in their first year when they sign a 10-year deal for all that money, that's all you see on the headlines. 10 years, $200-some million, and they try to bat like that for the whole first season, and they usually don't perform. The second year is when they usually settle in. In this case, it was not what happened. The other thing that I felt completely surprised by is that the Angels' lack of playoffs.
Oh,
they went to the playoffs one time with Albert Pujols, which they proceeded to lose in the postseason immediately. They didn't even have a run. Now, mind you, they have Mike Trout. They have Albert Pujols. He batted 167. Now, mind you, he's played for the World Series. He's been known as being clutch in the postseason. His average in the postseason as a career is 319, 167, 1 home run, 2 RBIs. They got swept by the Kansas City Royals. Bye.
They also had Shohei Ohtani on the team. You couldn't do it. They expanded the playoffs in 2020. They still couldn't make it.
What did you just say? They have Shohei Ohtani in the playoffs in 2014. What are you?
They had Shohei Ohtani, Mike Trout, and Albert Pujols, and they couldn't make the playoffs.
Oh, you're talking later on.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, you're right.
Like the whole playoff hopes that they thought they were getting with Pujols were so high. They could not be more disappointing. And you said they were hoping for a run. Let's talk about running for 2 seconds. Because this guy was not running at all. By the end of his time with the Angels, he was clocked at a fat 4.8 seconds to first base. I want you to think about that. Everybody take out your phones, take out the stopwatch, and hit it until it gets to about 5 seconds. That is a long time. That is a long time.
That's enough time for Pablo Sandoval to eat a whole sandwich.
Correct. Ellie De La Cruz is on third in 4.8 seconds. I can't emphasize enough how absolutely old Albert Pujols got by the end of this contract.
So a swing batter contract is when you don't want to be given 10-year contracts to 31-year-olds who may be older than that. Let me tell you the tragedy and what makes this a swing batter contract. 2019, with 2 years left in the contract, Albert Pujols, they have a statistic called line drive percentage of times at bat that you hit a line drive. In 2019, Albert Pujols had a line drive percentage of 15.3%, lowest in the major leagues.
Whew.
In the whole major leagues, guys from AAA were coming up and hitting the ball harder than him. And he still had 2 years left to get paid.
Speaking of triples, not that he hit one, but on April 15th, 2012, Albert Pujols not only had to pay the tax man, he had to pay up on a triple play. So he's playing the Yankees. Here's a little trivia for you. He hits a sharp ground ball. I don't know how sharp it was, but he hits a sharp ground ball to another overpaid actor on the baseball diamond, Alex Rodriguez, who's covering third for the Yankees. A-Rod steps on third, throws to second, and throws to first, where Albert Pujols is jauntering his way down, lumbering as it will, and he hit into a triple play to A-Rod. And forever, April 15th is now known as not only tax day, but the day when $500 million was involved in a triple play.
Yeah, that's true.
One of the things I recall about his deal when he signed with the Angels is I believe Albert wanted to sign with the Cardinals, but he wanted the biggest deal possible for his future. And the reason why I know he was upset about not going to the Cardinals is at the time, his wife at the time was very vocal about how the Cardinals didn't step up to the plate to pay for Albert Pujols after all he's done for the city. Now, when a player or a spouse or somebody in the family gets upset about this, typically what they're upset about is, I played for you for all these years. I'm owed the money. Well, the Cardinals looked at this Angels deal, which I'm sure Albert brought to them, and they said, no dice. We're not doing this. So he went to the Angels, and then Albert had to uproot his family. He had a young family at the time. So again, I think there's a lot more factors happening in the LA Angels when you look at baseball and what they are doing. I could also argue that the Cardinals' extracurricular activities in the summer are not the same as the Los Angeles Angels or the Anaheim Angels or whatever you wanted to call them at the time. There's a lot more to do, and the Angels aren't really focused on baseball.
My wife is also upset that the Cardinals have not paid me.
It did not bode well for the relationship between Albert and that young lady as they went on to divorce, and he has been remarried since. Congratulations, Albert, and congratulations on this deal. Not only is it a swing batter deal, but we're very proud of you and for all the money that you were able to take from the Angels, but you're not the top dog for taking money from the Angels, because the Angels have more folks. And if you want to add or comment about which Angel you think is the biggest robber, the biggest swing batter contract, please feel free to comment. Don't forget to like, and don't forget to subscribe as we go through more of these wonderful guaranteed contracts. And that's Albert Pujols for the Los Angeles Angels, and to the World Series they did not go. Thanks, Dad. Thanks, Todd.
Hey, hey, hey.